The big girl came to pay her father's debt, but the lonely CEO said, "You owe me nothing, just dinner." The first time Lily walked into the grand glass doors of Ashford Enterprises, she felt like she didn't belong. Her hands were calloused from years of helping her father run his small bakery, and today she carried something heavier than her usual flour sacks, her father's debt notice. She had saved every penny, scrimped and borrowed, just to come here and pay what he owed. But the moment she reached the CEO's office, the world seemed to stop. Behind a massive mahogany desk sat a man whose presence could silence a room. His eyes were sharp, yet there was a hint of loneliness lurking beneath that perfection. "Ms. Lily, I presume?" he said, voice calm but commanding. She nodded, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. "Sir, I came to settle my father's debt. Everything he owes I can pay today." The CEO leaned back and studied her. A faint smile curved his lips. "You owe me nothing," he said softly, almost to himself. Then he added, surprising her, "except dinner. Just dinner, with me." Lily blinked. Dinner? With the man her father had feared for years? Something in her chest twisted, fear, curiosity, and a strange flutter of hope. She had expected anger, rejection, maybe even humiliation. Instead, she met a man who seemed as human as she was, someone who perhaps carried his own invisible burdens. And in that unexpected offer, Lily realized, maybe this meeting was the start of something far bigger than a debt. The restaurant was quiet, almost serene, the kind of place where conversations lingered longer than usual. Lily felt out of place in her simple dress, surrounded by chandeliers and waiters who moved like dancers. The CEO, Mr. Ashford, seemed completely at ease, as if this world of fine china and crystal glasses was his natural habitat. "Relax," he said, noticing her stiff posture. "Tonight, you don't owe me anything," she smiled hesitantly. I didn't expect you to be kind." He chuckled softly, a sound that carried a warmth she hadn't anticipated. "Kindness isn't always obvious in business. But tonight, it's just two people talking." Over the meal, Lily found herself sharing little stories about her father's bakery, the way he'd knead dough with a precision that was almost an art, the laughter that filled their tiny kitchen, and the struggles they faced when creditors came knocking. Mr. Ashford listened, genuinely interested, occasionally asking questions that revealed a curiosity about life beyond balance sheets and boardrooms. Then came the twist. Lily mentioned a charity her father had quietly supported, helping families who had fallen on hard times. Mr. Ashford's gaze softened. "I didn't know about this," he said quietly. "Most people only see the debt, not the heart behind it." For the first time, Lily saw him not as a powerful, untouchable CEO, but as a man who, despite everything, understood compassion. By the end of dinner, something had shifted. The debt that had seemed like a mountain now felt lighter, not because it was paid, but because connection had bridged the gap between two very different lives. Lily realized that sometimes kindness doesn't come in money or favors. It comes in the simple act of being seen, and for Mr. Ashford, a lonely CEO, it was the first time in years he felt truly understood. The days after dinner felt surreal for Lily. She returned home to her small apartment, her mind replaying Mr. Ashford's rare warmth. Yet, life rarely allowed such moments to linger unchallenged. Just a week later, she received a call from the bank. Her father's debt, they said, hadn't been fully cleared. There was a mistake, an overlooked interest penalty, and now it had ballooned again. Panic surged through her. She had thought the burden was lifted. She had counted on that evening to mark an ending, not a new beginning of worry. Desperate, Lily returned to Ashford Enterprises, hoping to negotiate or at least explain. But what she found was unexpected. Mr. Ashford didn't meet her with anger or judgment. Instead, he greeted her with the same calm, compassionate gaze. "I hear there's a problem," he said. "Tell me," she explained, voice trembling. He listened carefully, then leaned back in his chair. "You've done everything you could," he said, "and yet here you are, carrying the weight of someone else's mistakes. Let me help." Lily froze. Help? From him? But he wasn't offering charity, he was offering partnership. "We can handle this together," he continued, not as a business transaction, but as people. In that moment, Lily realized something profound. Kindness isn't just in a gesture or a promise. It's in showing up when it matters most, without judgment, without expectation. The lonely CEO, who once seemed untouchable, had chosen to share her burden. By the end of the meeting, the debt was managed, but more importantly, a bridge had formed, built on empathy, understanding, and a newfound trust. Lily walked out feeling lighter, not because the numbers had changed, but because humanity had. For the first time, both of them understood, some debts can never be measured in money. In the weeks that followed, Lily found herself visiting Ashford Enterprises more often, not out of obligation but out of curiosity and a strange sense of belonging. Each meeting with Mr. Ashford revealed layers of his life she never expected. A man burdened by responsibility yet quietly generous. A leader admired by many but understood by few. One afternoon, as they reviewed her father's accounts, he suddenly looked up from his papers. "Lily, do you know why I asked you to dinner that first night?" She shook her head, unsure if she wanted the answer. "Because I was lonely," he said simply, "and I thought, perhaps sharing a meal with someone who values life beyond numbers might remind me there's more to it." Lily blinked, struck by the honesty. She had always assumed CEOs were untouchable, that kindness was a calculated act. But here he was, vulnerable in a way that no one in his world had ever seen him. As days turned into weeks, their dinners became a ritual, not extravagant, but meaningful. They shared stories, laughter, even quiet silences that felt comfortable rather than awkward. Lily began to see that generosity wasn't only about paying debts or giving money, it was about giving attention, respect, and trust. Then came a moment of realization. One evening, as the city lights reflected off the glass walls of his office, Lily noticed how much Mr. Ashford had changed. He smiled more freely, listened more openly, and seemed lighter. And she understood, their connection had transformed both of them. One act of kindness had sparked a ripple, touching hearts in ways neither could have predicted. The lonely CEO was no longer entirely alone, and Lily realized that even the smallest gestures, like a shared dinner or an open ear, could create profound impact. For the first time in a long while, they both felt hope, not just for themselves, but for the people around them. The evening air was crisp as Lily arrived at Ashford Enterprises for what had become their customary dinner. But tonight, there was an unspoken tension. Something beyond accounts or debts lingered between them. As they sat down, Mr. Ashford placed a small envelope before her. "Open it," he said softly. Inside was a handwritten note. "For all the kindness you've shown, your father, yourself, and even me. Let it remind you that no act of goodwill is ever wasted." Lily's eyes welled up. It wasn't money, it wasn't a transaction, it was acknowledgement. Someone had truly seen her, recognized her efforts, and valued her heart. She began, but words failed her. He reached across the table gently. "Lily, you came to pay a debt, but you gave me something far greater, reminding me what it means to care, to connect, to be human." In that moment, the weight of all their struggles, the debts, the loneliness, the unspoken fears, melted away. What remained was something deeper, understanding, compassion, and a bond built on mutual respect and genuine kindness. Lily realized then that life's true richness doesn't come from money or status, but from the way we touch others' lives. And Mr. Ashford, the lonely CEO, had discovered that even the smallest gestures can heal the largest gaps. As they left the restaurant together, laughing softly over a shared joke, Lily felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. The debt was gone, but what endured was far more valuable: friendship, trust, and the reminder that humanity shines brightest in moments of selflessness. Sometimes, a single act, like dinner shared, a listening ear, or a kind word, can change everything. And in that quiet, profound way, two lives had been transformed, leaving hope and warmth lingering long after the evening ended.